Holy Thursday, the washing of the feet. They arose from table and, while putting on and arranging their robes, as was the custom before solemn prayer, the master of the feast with 2 servants came in to take away the table and put back the seats. While this was being done, Jesus ordered some water to be brought him in the anteroom, and the master again left the hall with his servants. Jesus, standing in the midst of the apostles, spoke to them long and solemnly. But I have seen and heard so many things that it is not possible for me to give the Lord's discourse exactly. I remember that he spoke of his kingdom, of his going to his Father, and he told them that he would, before leaving them, give over to them all that he possessed. Then he gave them instructions upon penance, the knowledge and confession of sin, contrition, and justification. I felt that this bore some reference to the washing of the feet, and I saw that all, with the exception of Judas, acknowledged their sins with sorrow. This discourse was long and solemn. When it was ended, Jesus sent John and James the less to bring the water from the anteroom, and directed the others to place the seats in a half-circle. Meantime, he himself retired to the anteroom to lay aside his mantle, gird up his robe, and tie around him a towel, one end of which he allowed to hang. While these preparations were being made, the apostles got into a kind of dispute as to who among them should have the first place, for as the Lord had expressly announced that he was about to leave them and that his kingdom was near, they were strengthened anew in their idea that he had somewhere a secret force in reserve, and that he would achieve some earthly triumph at the very last moment. Jesus, still in the anteroom, commanded John to take a basin, and James the less a leathern bottle of water. The latter carried the bottle before his breast, the spout resting on his arm. After he had poured some water from the bottle into the basin, Jesus bade the 2 follow him into the hall in the center of which the master of the feast had set another large, empty basin. Entering the hall in this order, Jesus in a few words reproved the apostles for the strife that had arisen among them. He said among other things that he himself was their servant, and that they should take their places on the seats for him to wash their feet. They obeyed, observing the same order as at table. They sat on the backs of the seats, which were arranged in a half-circle, and rested their naked feet upon the seat itself. Jesus went from one to another and, from the basin held under them by John, with his hand scooped up water over the feet presented to him. Then taking in both hands the long end of the towel with which he was girded, he passed it over the feet to dry them, and then moved on with James to the next. John emptied the water after each one into the large basin in the center of the room, and then returned to the Lord with the empty one. Then Jesus again poured water from the bottle held by James over the feet of the next, and so on. During the whole of the Paschal Supper, the Lord's demeanor was most touching and gracious, and at this humble washing of his apostles' feet, he was full of love. He did not perform it as if it were a mere ceremony, but like a sacred act of love springing straight from the heart. By it he wanted to give expression to the love that burned within. When he came to Peter, the latter, through humility, objected. He said, "Lord, dost thou wash my feet?" And the Lord answered, "What I do, thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter." And it appeared to me that he said to him in private, "Simon, thou hast deserved that my Father should reveal to thee who I am, whence I came, and whither I go. Thou alone hast known and confessed it, therefore I will build my church upon thee, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. My power shall continue with thy successors till the end of the world." Here Jesus pointed to Peter while saying to the others, "Peter shall be my representative with you and I shall have gone from among you. He shall direct you and make known to you your mission." Then said Peter, "Never shalt thou wash my feet." And the Lord replied, "If I wash thee not, thou shalt have no part with me." Thereupon, Peter exclaimed, "Lord, wash me not only my feet, but also my hands and my head." To which Jesus replied, "He that is washed needeth not but to wash his feet, but is clean wholly. And you are clean, but not all." At these last words, Jesus was thinking of Judas. In his instruction, Jesus had spoken of the washing of the feet as of a purification from daily faults, because the feet, coming in continual contact with the earth in working, are constantly liable to become soiled. This was a spiritual foot washing, a kind of absolution. Peter, however, in his zeal, looked upon it as too great a humiliation for his master. He knew not that to save him, Jesus would the next day humble himself for love of him to the shameful death of the cross. When Jesus washed Judas's feet, it was in the most touching and loving manner. He pressed them to his cheek and in a low tone bade him enter into himself, for that he had been unfaithful and a traitor for the past year. But Judas appeared not to notice, and addressed some words to John. This roused Peter's anger, and he exclaimed, "Judas, the Master is speaking to thee." Then Judas made some vague, evasive remark, such as, "Lord, far be it from me." Jesus' words to Judas had passed unremarked by the other apostles, for he spoke softly, and they did not hear. They were, besides, busy putting on their sandals. Judas's treachery caused Jesus more pain than any other part of his passion. Jesus then washed the feet of John and James, first those of the latter while Peter held the water bottle, then the former, for whom James held the basin. Jesus next delivered an instruction upon humiliation. He told them that he who was the greatest among them should be the servant, and that for the future they should in humility wash one another's feet. Many other things he said bearing reference to their dispute as to who should be the greatest, as is recorded in the Gospel. Jesus now resumed the garments that he had laid aside, and the apostles let down theirs that had been girded up for the eating of the paschal lamb.